Good morning. We're going to go back to Exodus chapter 25 and verse 30 to start sharing the Bible this morning. And it says, "And thou shalt set upon the table showbread before me always." Showbread before me always. Boy, I can think a lot of things about that. Let's talk about the table first. The table, of course, covered in gold, overlaid in gold. A golden table that is about a yard long, foot and a half wide. That's not very large, and a cubit and a half the height thereof. Now, I was trying to talk about a cubit and a half, and I kind of got it mixed up yesterday, I think, because a cubit would be a foot and a half a cubit would be 3/4 of a foot. So it's going to be about a cubit and a half is going to be 2 1/4 feet, 2 1/4 feet high. So 2 1/4. So it's still not very high, and it's not tall, very tall. And it was overlaid with pure gold, and it had a border around it that was to make a golden crown. So there's the table. It's golden, and he said you got to make dishes and spoons and covers and bowls in the verse before that, and all of them are going to be covered in pure gold. So here is some dishes set on the table with showbread in it. They are not pure gold. It's just bread, and unleavened bread probably. Okay, so that showbread, the Bible says, "And thou shalt set upon the table showbread before me always." What could that possibly be telling us about Jesus and about things that happens in the New Testament? Let's think about that. Because they had to have fresh bread put on there when they took the old bread off, because it was supposed to be there always. Now, these are my thoughts, and I will share my thoughts with you. My thoughts is that in the church, the bread should always be there ready. The bread of life, Jesus. He should always be available. Now, nobody ate this bread because it was inside the tabernacle, and they didn't eat the bread, but it was there to say there's always bread in God's house. There's always bread in God's house. And that's what we ought to look at and aim for. There always being bread in God's house, the bread of life, which is Jesus. Make sure, if you're a pastor of a church, or you're just in the church, that you pray and ask the Lord, please let the bread of life be in our church, fresh, good, so that anybody comes, they can have some. They can eat it. Because we're not in the Old Testament. It is not just for show. They didn't have Jesus then, so it was just for show. But we have him now. And he said, "Except you eat my flesh and drink my blood, you have no life in you." He said, "I am the bread of life." He wanted us to partake of him. So this is showbread back there on the table all the time. The Lord wants us to have bread, the kind of bread that you eat, the kind of bread that satisfies, the spiritual bread that people need, and that's the bread of life, which is Jesus Christ. Always, always. We discussed it in Sunday school about the difference between the word always and always. And we discovered, as we discussed, that there was a difference. And the difference was that instead of it being all the time, just all the time, it was no matter what the circumstances are. always. Whatever is going on, that bread's supposed to be there on the table. The golden table and the golden bowls, or the golden plates. That was what he instructed the children of Israel to do, and it's foreshadowing us in our church having the showbread, not the showbread, the bread of life in our churches all the time. So let's start now in verse 31. And thou shalt make a candlestick of pure gold. Of beaten work shall the candlestick be made. His shaft and his branches, his bowls, his knops, and his flowers shall be of the same. So this is a big old piece of gold. They got some gold, don't they? A big piece of gold beaten into a candlestick. And 6 branches shall come out of the sides of it, 3 branches of the candlestick out of the one side, and 3 branches of the candlestick out of the other side. 3 bowls make like unto almonds, with a knop and a flower in one branch, and 3 bowls made like almonds in the other branch, one with a knop and a flower. So in the 6 branches that come out of the candlestick. And in the candlestick shall be 4 bowls made like unto almonds, with their knops and their flowers. And there shall be a knop under 2 branches of the same, and a knop under 2 branches of the same, and a knop under 2 branches of the same, according to the 6 branches that proceed out of the candlestick. Their knops and their branches shall be of the same. All it shall be one beaten work of pure gold. And thou shalt make the 7 lamps thereof, and they shall light the lamps thereof, that they may give light over against it. So this is one great candlestick that was made to light the tabernacle. And it was beaten out of gold. And it had flowers, knops, bowls, branches, and it was of an almond tree, like an almond tree. The Lord gave this prescription, this instruction on how to make it and what it was going to be like. And that it was going to have a place where the oil could be kept, those bowls on the candlestick. And in the candlestick shall be 4 bowls made like unto almonds, with their knops and their flowers. And there shall be a knop under 2 branches of the same, and a knop under 2 branches of the same, and a knop under 2 branches of the same, according to the 6 branches that proceed out of the candlestick. So the knops and the flowers, it was to make it look like it was an almond tree. Why is it an almond tree? Why is it an almond tree? I don't know. I don't know. That's something for us to find out, isn't it? Why is the candlestick made like an almond tree with 6 branches and knops? That's like knobs, little knobs, or ornamental knobs, and branches, and bowls that look like almonds. Why was it modeled after the almond tree? Now, I don't know. Let's look back here and where it talks about almonds and see. I remember this, but it hasn't happened yet. I remember that they put the rods together, and who's ever blossomed and bloomed and had almonds, that was the one that was the person that God was with. And of course Aaron's did, and that's later. So we're going to find out, and maybe that's why I don't know, because the significance of the almond tree has not been yet given in the Bible, has it? Have you seen it yet as we've studied Genesis and as we are studying Exodus? Have you seen anything that makes you know that there's a significance of the almond tree? Okay, almonds. Jacob gave Pharaoh almonds. Used as a motif for the candlesticks, wood used in Aaron's rod, and the vision of Jeremiah. So the almond, those are the 4 places that the almond tree is used in the Bible. And when I look over in Jeremiah, the first chapter, let's look there, because I remember that too, the almond tree. Jeremiah chapter 1. And moreover, the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, in verse 11, Jeremiah, what seest thou? And I said, I see a rod of an almond tree. Then said the Lord unto me, Thou hast well seen, for I will hasten my word to perform it. Okay. Now we also know that they laid up those rods. That's coming later. But they laid the rods up of all the tribes, and the rod of Aaron, or the tribe of Levi, it put on leaves, put on blossoms, put on almonds. When they got it the next morning, there it was, all alive. And this was God showing Jeremiah a rod of an almond tree. And he said, for I will hasten my word to perform it. Both those things were to be showing something that was going to happen quickly. And here the candlestick in the tabernacle is made in the fashion of an almond tree, of almonds. So maybe the Lord was wanting to show that what he was doing in the world, he was doing quickly. He was doing it quickly. It doesn't seem quickly to us at all. What he was doing for the Jews, he was going to do it quickly. Doesn't seem quickly. But let's just, as we go through the Bible, let's keep our eyes and ears open about the candlestick and what happened to it. And I know this, that when the Romans took Jerusalem and destroyed Jerusalem under Titus, there's an arch in Rome, and it's still there, and it's showing a soldier carrying the candlestick on his shoulder. A soldier doing that, this candlestick. So I don't know. Well, let's just keep our eyes and ears open about the candlestick as we go on and learn whatever we can, and so we can understand why it was fashioned after an almond tree. Now, it had 7 lamps. It has 6 branches, but that one, the thing in the middle, is also a lamp. So it's got 6, 3 on this side, 3 on this side, and 1 in the middle. 7 branches, 7 lamps. And he said, Thou shalt make the 7 lamps thereof, and they shall light the lamps thereof, that they may give light over against it. Now we know 7 is kind of a number of completion. 7 days in a week. And here's this 7 lights in this candlestick. And we can, as we look through the Bible, we'll see the number 7 quite often. And just think about that too, about the 7 lamps. And so they shall light the lamps thereof, that they may give light over against it. In other words, the whole tabernacle was going to be lit by this light. And the tongs thereof and the snuff dishes thereof shall be of pure gold. And what the tongs and the snuff dishes, tongs probably to handle it when it was hot. The snuff dishes were not for snuff. We think of snuff as that tobacco product. It was to snuff out the lights when they needed to, so they maybe could fill up the bowls with oil. And they were to be of pure gold. Of a talent of pure gold shall he make it. We talked about a talent being about 100 pounds. between 75 and 100 pounds. Of a talent of pure gold shall he make it with all these vessels. And look that thou make them after their pattern, which was showed thee in the mount. So the Lord had given them 100 pounds of gold to do that with. That's amazing. My daddy had a little tiny gold coin, I remember, and it was like in a purple pouch. We had a service station, and I worked there, and he had that under the counter. And sometimes he would let me look at it. It was very soft, that gold was. Seemed like it'd rub off on your fingers if you weren't careful. But it was a tiny gold coin in a purple pouch. And that's, I guess, the closest that I've been to something that was pure gold. Because I feel like it was pure gold. Oh my. It was so valuable. I don't know how much Daddy paid for it. I don't know where he got it. But he had it. And so I don't even know what happened to it. He probably traded it for something, knowing him. But anyhow, pure gold is amazing stuff. And they were using lots of gold to make this tabernacle. Lots of it. And why pure gold? Did you know that gold does not tarnish? It stays bright. It doesn't tarnish like silver does. It stays bright, and it's so beautiful. Such a beautiful color. And it's very valuable. It's very, still is, very valuable. If you see pictures of Fort Knox, and you see all those things of gold bullion, you know, it's amazing. So gold is something that we know about, but not many of us have. But God wanted his candlestick that the light was going to come out of to be golden. Yes, you guessed it again, didn't you? It was Jesus. The candlestick was symbolizing Jesus in the tabernacle. He was going to be full of that light, the light of the world. And it was going to be burning light and really sweet light, wonderful light. And that's Jesus. And here they did make the candlestick for the tabernacle. So that's the end of chapter 25. We will start 26 tomorrow. If you've got any ideas about the almond tree that you'd like to put in the comments, I'd love to hear it. And all right, let's see what happens. God bless you, and I'll see you tomorrow for chapter 26.